Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nix. Before I begin, a huge shout out to all my new subscribers. I am super chuffed. Over the moon, cloud 9. Welcome to my channel. I hope you find it insightful and somewhat humorous. Because if you don't laugh, what are the alternatives? On the note of insightful, over 2 billion rand is what just the Gauteng Health Department plans to spend on security this year alone. You then get to find out that they've already spent 775 million of that. That's just for the first 6 months of this year. The entire health department across provinces and national for just 6 months for just security sits at 2.8 billion rand, and of which almost 1 billion is consumed by Gauteng Health. And we'll get into the Gauteng focus in a moment. The twist is that despite all of this money being spent on security, hospitals remain unsafe, theft, vandalism. We've all heard the stories about what takes place in the emergency departments, specifically over New Year's. And I would guess specifically in the Cape Flats, there must be some hoary stuff happening in the emergency departments in the Cape Flats. Some of these nurses have actually been held at gunpoint, beaten up. And why am I covering this today? Well, because security is under the spotlight at the moment, isn't it? Cat appears at the Madlanga Commission, and then he's questioned about how he actually managed to, register his security company and acquire firearms with his 2001 conviction. And it says here, something that would typically disqualify applicants under South Africa's Firearm Controls Act. Only if you're a tax-paying citizen or a private institution does the laws of South Africa apply. But this comes out in the Madlanga Commission, so you can only imagine that this is happening everywhere else. Story after story, inquiry after inquiry, facts and the reality on the ground show that all of this money spent on security has no value add. And we have seen little to no change. If anything, it's gotten worse. Literally, like I said in my last video, if the ANC is able to, they will destroy it. That is their motto, destruction at all costs. So join me and let me show you what Gauteng Health Department is getting up to. And then I'll even show you what each province is spending on security for just the health department. See, and I've said this in one of my previous videos, and somebody else said it yesterday, and I was like, yes, finally, somebody else gets it. This is the corruption taking place at provincial and local level. This is where it's hitting us the hardest. Because you know what? These are the stories that mainstream media pushes aside. Because we all know what mainstream media wants. Bigger headline, more clicks, more fame. Clickbait is mainstream media. Mainstream media, in some way, is as complicit as the ANC when it comes to corruption. Because they could choose to focus on stories like this. They choose not to. They choose to dox an ex-user for publishing his lived experience. You know what? If you're driving around surrounded by blue lights, can you honestly say that your lived experience is the same as my lived experience? These are the questions we should be asking our politicians. Do we both have the same lived experience? The answer's no. Okay, guys, it's time to ramble. Here we have an article from the Daily Maverick. Questions over tripling of Gauteng Health's security budget. The Gauteng Health Department projected 2.5 billion spent on security for 25-26 has received the thumbs up, fueling suspicion in various quarters. And then on top of what happened with Cat Matlanga and the findings, the SIU findings from Tembisa, you get the thumbs up for 2.5 billion rand on just security, guys. Just security. Keep that in mind. It says the 2.5 billion is more than 3 times the 838 million the department spent 2 years ago. Jack Bloom, DA Shadow, MEC for Health in Gauteng, calls the proposed expenditure unjustified, given that the department is failing to meet its health services delivery targets. Correct. The idea that you can just get money and not meet your targets. The only world that exists is government, more specifically the ANC. According to him, security companies charge 77 million per year for guarding services at Chris Hani Baragwana Hospital and more than 72 million annually at the Charlotte Hospital, because I cannot pronounce that second word. At Tara Hospital, the new security contract costs 14 million a year, a sharp increase from the previous year, 4.2 million rand, and that had provided 21 guards for the facility. Bloom said that according to the department's own assessment, only 5 additional guards were needed at Tara Hospital, increasing the total to 26. However, the current contract pays for 46 guards. No, that's called BEE tax. Don't worry about it. This means they are paying about 5 million a year for 20 guards they do not need. It's called BEE tax. They don't have to pitch up those 20 guards, by the way. They just have to be on the books, you know what I mean? They could better use this money to fill the vacancies for 13 professional nurses, as Tara Hospital cannot use 50 of its 137 beds because of staff shortages. Do you understand that? We have 20 extra security guards at a cost of 5 million rand, yet we cannot use 50 of the 137 beds because of staff shortages. It is a clear example of excessive security costs squeezing out service delivery. The thing about service delivery is that the ANC aren't 100% sure on what that means yet. Bloom says security guarding contracts have been very fishy for at least the past 10 years. It's just like the fact, it's just very frustrating that this kind of stuff goes on year in and year out and year in and year out. And I could go on for 10 years about this. There are certain security companies that keep popping up. These companies will get 2-year contracts and then have their contracts extended for something like 10 years. Then we have these new contracts which have soared in costs. The Auditor General has said that there is irregular expenditure. You don't say, Auditor General. You know what? That Auditor General stands up and says a lot of things, just like our president. What comes of it is bogorol, like I like to say. Security contracts have always been suspect and have always been corruption territory. Correct. And I mean, you guys know how many reports I go through. The amount of security and IT, never ending. These people really love security. They are paranoid about security. Well, that and apparently 5 million rand for 20 guards that aren't needed. But, let's not go down that rabbit hole. In March this year, the DA lodged a complaint with the Public Protector over a 49 million rand contract for 5 clinics in Tshwane and the MEC's office. The contract was awarded to a company called Cryotic Protection Services. The DA alleges that the company was founded by the City of Tshwane's Deputy Executive Mayor, Eugene Modise, who also previously served as its director. When the company was awarded the contract, it was allegedly in the crosshairs of the South African Revenue Service because it owed 59 million in tax over 5 years. So we just keep hiring companies. We give them 49 million rand, and then never mind the fact that the deputy executive mayor was the director, and then when they got the contract awarded, it actually hadn't paid 59 million in tax over 5 years. Excuse me? The stuff that the ANC get up to, it's like it's an actual reality soap opera. Spotlight approached Modise for comment, spokesperson for the Office of the Executive Mayor, but has not received a response by the time of publication. Other security companies that have contracts with the department have also made headlines for allegedly flouting labour laws. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is a reason, especially my message to Cyril, this is the reason why the black people continue to remain in poverty, is because even the companies, the fraudulent companies you give 49 million rand to, they too flout labour laws. In fact, the taxi industry is one of the worst when it comes to flouting labour laws. But I don't see your ANC noses up in their business about regulations and laws and or paying tax. Highball ANC, you are a huge disappointment to this country. Article goes on to say this is a department that has routinely had around 3 billion a year in irregular spending. It means procurement procedures have been bypassed. 3 billion rand. This is not an isolated incident, it's systematic. Correct. Every department, every province. I see some of it in Western Cape, but I tell you, boy oh boy, they are far down on the list. They literally always come in at number 1 when it actually comes to complying to the laws and legislation of the country. Talk about leading by example, ANC. No wonder our country looks the way it does. Funding here says that over 9 years of monitoring, the Gauteng Health Department's irregular and wasteful spending ranged between 3.6 and 6% and 6.6% of the total budget. In contrast, like I was just saying about Western Cape, in contrast, during the same period, the Western Cape's irregular spend ranged from 0% to 0.1%, just showing that it can be done. A couple of quick notes from this article. Millions spent on security at Gauteng Health Services, but concerns remain. A spokesperson for Deniso says that criminals have noticed the neglect of security and that weekends are especially tough for health workers. It often happens that many taverns in communities are closer to clinics. One drunk, some community members would just come into facilities to cause havoc and sometimes injure nurses. These men are drunk and frustrated because they have no life purpose. They're unemployed. They're serving nothing towards society, which is an inherent human trait that we want to provide and serve and have a meaningful purpose. But of course, that sits squarely on the ANC's shoulders. Here's a story from a nurse. I had an argument with a female patient. She called her husband to come and deal with me. And when he arrived, he assaulted me and pointed a gun at me, she tells Spotlight. She says she opened a case at the nearest police station. But you must know how far that case is going to go. And the issue with contracts being extended over and over again. Originally awarded in 2014, were meant to expire in 2016 and has since been extended on a month-to-month basis, costing in excess of 2 billion. The spokesperson for Gauteng Health, Kakana, says the issue of how much is spent on security and if it is value for money is a debatable subject. No, it isn't. Not when your nurses are being attacked, having guns pointed at them. Not when your irregular spend is 3 billion rand a year, and most of it is on security services with absolutely nothing to show for it. And just to really the cherry on the cake, a press statement bemoaned the fact that the Gauteng government has spent 63.8 million rand on 54 reports to investigate specialized corruption, but not a single one of these reports have been made public, despite claims that the recommendations made have been implemented or are in the process of being implemented. And just remember, A, All of those G20 people stood up on stage and said absolutely nothing about the corruption in this country. The financial task force took us off the grey list. And now, on top of spending all of this money on a report, same as this Honda report, nothing comes of it. Yet, our government stands up as often as they can in front of the camera and talks about sovereignty and transparency and diversity and inclusion. That's just buzzwords. I wonder if they even know what these words mean, honestly. So before I let you go, here is a quick look at the provincial spend for security, as well as the sum total and how many line items each of these provinces have. Eastern Cape, for example, 29 line items for security alone over 6 months, coming to a total of 531 million rand. Free State, oddly enough, 3 line items, coming in at 106,000. Strange that, hey? Eastern Cape, 29 line items, 500 million. Free State, 3, 106,000. One of those is very wrong. Now, between KZN and Gauteng, there's a lot happening, as we know, with the Madlanga Commission, am I right? Gauteng, take a look at these numbers. Gauteng. 132 purchases for security in 6 months, totaling 775 million rand. And KZN, like I said, also big spender, 99 line items, coming in just under Gauteng at 682 million. We then have Limpopo, 60 purchases for security at 313 million. Even National Health did some purchases, 5 in total, but don't worry, it was only 5.6 million. Northern Cape, interestingly enough, made only 1 purchase, but at a whopping 75 million rand. Northwest, 16 line items, coming to a grand total of 292 million rand, 250 million. And then Western Cape, 44 line items, coming in at 201 million rand. So you do a bit of a auto sum in Google Sheets, and the grand total for all of those provinces plus national, for just the 6 months, security, 2.8 billion rand. Yet, as you saw, nurses are being held up at gunpoint, vandalism. I've looked at many reports, and I can tell you one thing, and it is something I'll get to eventually. The biggest spenders across all provinces is health and education. What's the worst off in South Africa at the moment? Well, everything. Never mind. But seriously, I mean, we are struggling with health and corruption, the Tembisa SIU findings. And education, 30% is considered A-OK. Listen, would you go to hospital and allow a brain surgeon who only received 30% pass to operate on you? Would you? Because that's what the government's saying. The government's saying, it's okay, I trust somebody with a 30% mark to operate on me. Or that 30% is enough. And now when you get to university, we're expecting 70. And you must cope with that drastic change. The mind is a muscle. The more you use it, the more you push it, the better it is. So 30%. The future workforce of South Africa is at stake when it comes to what's happening in the education department. But I guess that's a video for another day. At the heart of all of this is the hypocrisy of the ANC that really irks me. Hospitals can't afford enough nurses. Working equipment. I mean, has anyone heard of working equipment? Somehow they're finding billions and getting the thumbs up for billions for security contracts. And then the facts show that crime, vandalism, and corruption is rife in the places that apparently have billions allocated to security. And like every single minister that is ANC, they justify this. They think it's okay. SABC continually asking for more money. Eskom, Denel, Transnet, all of them. No, you must just give us more. We'll eventually fix the problem. Like, you can't put sand in a sinkhole. A sinkhole requires competence, and then those contracts extended, awarded without actually doing the due diligence. And mainstream media, nowhere to be seen. Auditor General is literally like a broken record. There is too much happening. We must put accountability in place next year. There is too much happening. We must put accountability in place. Thanks, Captain Obvious. And another cherry on this cake. Budgets and bureaucracy, corruption, justified billions of rands for security alone. And then you want the NHI. Like, is the ANC cuckoo in their head? The ideas and the concepts that they are able to put together must be an indicator of their state of mind when they're thinking about their strategies. They want to do NHI when the Tembisa stuff came out, this Cat McClark stuff and the Madlanga Commission's coming out. How do you justify any of this? How do you even wake up in the morning and look yourself in the mirror? I mean, you must get a new mirror every day because it must just crack over and over again. Cracks of corruption. Okay, guys, that is my ramble. Like I keep saying, these are the stories that we can use to change the narrative. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, if you found it insightful, firstly, I would love it for you to subscribe. Otherwise, give me a like, share it with people. We are responsible for changing the narrative. We are responsible for educating other voters or potential voters or voters who have lost the will to survive. I think that's 90% of South Africa. Anyway, drop me a comment. I think I am going to look into the education department next. Let's see what their spend for the last 6 months looks like. Guys, I appreciate all of your support. Every action you have on my video, even just you watching until the end, means the world to me. Thanks for all the great positive feedback so far. Nikki and Paul, you know who you all are, and you sit top of the list, part of the Next Rambles Club. Guys, find details on how you can support me. All the links for that are in the video description. I hope you have a fantastic day. A new week looms. Who knows what's going to come out of that? I hope it's a good one, regardless. Don't forget to be the most amazing human being you can be. Over and out.